D. D. 1, 2, 3, prova, mi senti sull'inglese? Sul D? Adesso sì.
Buongiorno a tutti e
Good morning, everybody, and welcome on behalf of our President, Mr. Cagnoni, and our Managing Director, Mr. Corrado Perradoni. Welcome to the second day at Italian exhibition group, Voice. I have the honor this morning to introduce a talk that focuses on some of the most interesting and important topics for our industry. We're going to talk about the future, about the new generations, about female entrepreneurship, about sustainability, education and training. And I have the honor to have here with me a panel of all women, and I believe that this is a very important statement for our industry. Without further ado, I would like to leave the floor to Margherita Succi, founder of Fill Your Own with Love, a blog, and she's going to introduce today's panelists. Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody, and welcome. Together with my guests today, I'm going to talk about new generations of women. My name is Margherita Succi. I'm the founder of Fill Your Home with Love, an online magazine about interior design, furnishing, art and fashion applied to design, and high jewelry. This has been possible thanks to the cooperation with Gemmai, the Italian Association of Gemstones, and I would like to thank Gemmai for giving me this opportunity. Together with Gemmai, we have also produced an e-book which you can download online. And we're here today together with Isabella Traglio, General Director of Vhernier, Alessia Crivelli, Marketing Manager of Crivelli Gioielli, and Azzurra Cesari, Special Project Manager of Cesari and Rinaldi Gemmai Futurgem Group. Thank you very much for being here with me today. You're all very young, and you're all women, and you all have a fundamental role in your company. So my first question for Isabella is, please tell us how you managed to get where you are now. Well, like all beautiful adventures, also my adventure started by chance. When I was 19, I was starting to become a veterinary doctor. I did not think about jewels, but I started working in the Vhernier shop just to lend a hand and to make a little bit of money while I was a student. Well, I realized with time that I wanted to go back to the store. And actually, I started spending more time with Vhernier rather than at university. I decided to go that way, and then I got a university degree in literature. I studied gemology in New York. I had a master course in Bocconi. I tried to acquire a very complete type of training to be able to work in our family enterprise with significant responsibilities and very big expectations. So I've worked also in other companies like Christie's in Geneva. That was a wonderful and very interesting experience. I've worked with Loro Piana. So I've tried to widen my experience prior to working in my company. Right now, I am general director. I'm also responsible for manufacturing and production. So I have a huge responsibility, but I try to be the reference person and to be up to this role. So education and training is never enough, but at least I've tried to do my best to be ready for this role. And together with an extraordinary team of people, you can really work very well. Alessia. Well, I have a different story. I actually grew up in my company, a company that my father founded in the 70s, and that's where I grew up. I mean, my first memories are in the company. So it has always been my home. When I was 18, I already had a baby. So my education took place in the company. I've worked for 1.5 years outside our company, but the rest of my working time has been spent in my company. So thanks to Bruno and thanks to the people who worked with me in the past few years, I've learned a lot. So I've learned thanks to my colleagues, and our is a very compact company. I have attended a few courses in communication because I wanted to learn how to communicate in the best way. But that's all. And right now, I am the marketing director in our company, but it is a family-owned company. Therefore, roles are a little bit blurred. And being a family company, everyone tries to do a little bit of everything. Azzurra, what about you? Good morning, everybody. As far as I'm concerned, I have a hybrid type of training, i.e., I grew up amongst gemstones. I listened to my father's stories and I fell in love with gemstones during my infancy, during my childhood. Then I attended the Bocconi University. I became a gemologist. This was a fundamental step, and I would like to thank Gemmai for this. Gemmai has become a very early part of my life. And after my gemological education, I started working in our company with the very same spirit that my father had. Love has been the turnkey for my work, and my approach is very eclectic. In other words, I am responsible for product development. I also focus on relationships with key accounts. And at the same time, I try to support my father, Paolo Cesari. And I consistently learn day after day, because the world of gemstones is such a huge world, and you can really learn something new every day. Well, getting to know you personally, I recognize the passion for your work. What made you fall in love with your job? Well, what a question. I believe that there are many different elements together, and I believe that Isabella and Alessia agree with me. I mean, the product, in my case, colors. I adore colors. Gemstones are an amazing color palette. At the same time, you can interface with creative individuals. Individuals who have a very personal, very specific approach to the product. So it is not only gemstones, it is something more. It becomes a personal exchange with the person you support when the person is developing the product. Am I right? Do you agree with that? You're absolutely right. My father is a creative person. He has a vision. He has a passion for this job. And he is really the driving force and the soul of our company. So it is extremely difficult not to become passionate about this. I have fallen in love with creativity, with the possibility of creating a piece of jewelry, of dressing up a gemstones, of seeing your jewel being worn by somebody. That's something extraordinary. I've fallen in love with this. I mean, it's like giving something of yourself to merge with the other person. Jewel is creativity. I agree with Alessia. And at Vhernier, we are all aware of the fact that we are developing a project, a very important project. And an important project is something that involves you every single day of the year, 360 degrees. And the idea that you are building something is wonderful. This is what I've fallen in love with. So you want to give your contribution. Sometimes you don't manage to do that. You know, trying to do something doesn't mean that you succeed, but the mere fact of trying, of being passionate about this field, gives you something extra, an extra drive. Thank you very much. Women supporting women. This is a very significant topic today, and today's talk reflects this. And I'm very proud to be here together with you and together with this big audience we have in front of us, because this is a real concrete value. We've seen this also in the past. We have already been talking about this. But what does this mean for you, and what does it mean to be a woman entrepreneur in the jewelry industry? Who would like to start? Well, sure, for sure it is not easy to be a woman in this industry. Being a woman means producing very high expectations, because they would like us to be entrepreneurs and mothers at the same time. I mean, as if one thing would not take time away from the other. So it is not easy. You have to dedicate yourself to your company, but you must also be able to ask for help when you need it. You must be able to choose your own team. You must be able to delegate. You must be able to stop when it is necessary, or to throw yourself into something 100%. So there's a moment when you have to make this choice, and you have many guilty feelings, like when you're in the office and not with your children, or when you are with your children and not in the office working at your project. So your brain is always divided in half. There's the project on one side and there's my daughter on the other side. So it's really difficult to reconcile both things. But we all know that, don't we? We always have guilty feelings. But we should forget about guilty feelings. Forget about them. Ask for help. Ask husbands, grandparents, babysitters. You have to do that. So that's the number one step. Then there is another element. We do not want any more fights. 2020, we are all evolved. We need to help each other. We mustn't fight each other, especially now with COVID. We need to support each other. And I believe that this Vicenza Oro issue is the living proof of what helping each other means. This has been a very daring cooperation. So congratulations to the exhibitors and to the Italian exhibition group. Congratulations for making this choice. I absolutely agree. I mean, apart from the guilty feelings, and I know that tomorrow morning I'll have to take my child to school, so I will go back this evening, take my child to school tomorrow morning, and come back to Voice tomorrow. Anyway, there's something that has been forgotten for some times. It's a sisterhood amongst women, which means being a team rather than fighting each other. Well, this sisterhood is back again. It is becoming our number one feeling. No more competition. If we work together, we can work much better. And we've seen this in the last few months. So I cannot but confirm that Voice is an extraordinary event. Communication has been fabulous, with an exchange of ideas, with joint decisions, with advice. This has been extraordinary. And I like to think that we're going to continue in this way in the future, picking up the phone and asking others what they think about that. And you see the result. It is here in front of our very eyes. I absolutely agree too. The spirit. I mean, what we see here today has been animated by a very singular truth, and I would like to thank you all, because there is a will and there is a clean project, a clean intention. It is a very strong feeling. You feel part of something, something that goes beyond you, and we're all involved in this. Because this is a job that you do only if you are in love with it. Otherwise, it is too complicated. And I believe everybody agrees with that. Therefore, starting from this talk here today, but all the way through the whole Voice event, this is an extraordinary experience, and we're all very thankful for this, because it has made the difference. And hopefully this is the beginning of a new way of working together, to be a real team, to support each other. Azzurra, back to the idea of being a team. Well, I believe that this is the spirit you have in your company, like you told us. Well, you have told me several times that it is fundamental to manufacture in Italy, especially right now. So I know that you're deeply convinced of this. But what does it actually mean to manufacture in Italy? Well, it means, first of all, having a deep sense of responsibility towards your geographical area. We produce in Italy 100%, which means guaranteeing continuity to the craftsman, guaranteeing familiarity in the sense that we work together with our craftsmen ever since our company was set up back in '86. So we have a history. This means cultivating the know-how. It means facing a generational change. I'm working today with the children of the artisans and craftsmen and workers who used to work with Vhernier at the very beginning. And this is very important. We're cultivating something. We're preserving something. It means believing in a project. It means giving people the possibility to learn a job, which is something fundamental. I mean, if nobody produced anymore in Italy, Italian young people would not have the chance to learn a job. I mean, how could they? If the workshops are closed, how can jobs be kept alive? So it is also a matter of social responsibility, of sustainability of such a precious job, of know-how which would otherwise vanish. So, in a few words, this is what it means for me.
And that's exactly what we've been doing the past few years too. We've all maintained production, especially now. It's a question of responsibility vis-à-vis our territory, vis-à-vis future generations, vis-à-vis those who are approaching this job, and a deep respect for all those who've done this in the passing of the years. The goldsmith masters, they have know-how, they have competences, which we must maintain. And so this makes me turn to training, something I truly believe in. It's not just a question of transmitting competences, but also the identity of what we do and what we are. And that's what we're doing at the moment. And all of us do this, especially in such a time as the one we are witnessing now. And it's indeed even more important now. Yes, absolutely. I agree. Yes. I believe that we all agree on this point. Because it is truly a characteristics of typical Italian savoir-faire. In companies we have, these craftsmen who, when they approach a product, the final result is something extremely personal. Because when there is such a deeply rooted and direct relationship, the result becomes an integral element. So to do things properly and to see a product which takes shape in your hands, and at the same time to manage to guarantee to your client a certain level of result, well, I think that for Italian companies, it truly is a personal issue. There was a moment in time in which all of us, in the way in which we described our product, we nearly kind of distanced ourselves from this aspect as if it were a less professional element. Instead, it is this element. It is important, this element, because if we were to speak to all the owners of the different companies here present today, the good result, a successful result, is something very personal. And to produce in Italy means this, to invest in the social network of the actual social fabric of the place, and to guarantee the generational transfer. Because once you lose this know-how, then you need years and years of experience and mistakes to recover these capacities. And so for us, training is extremely important. It really makes a difference. We have 2 stone cutters in Italy. We continue to produce in Italy, and we continue to invest in young people. I'd like to underline the project Fondazione Mani Intelligenti in the Valenza areas. Alessia, you are promoting this project. Tell us about it. Yes, the foundation was set up because there was an enormous generation gap and because Valenza had kind of lost its identity. And we've managed to solve this issue. Why lose this identity? Because people started saying we have to, leave and do something else. In other words, if you don't go to university or you can't finish university, go and work in a workshop. Then we realized that this gap was just too big. we had a loss of 40 to 50% of the labor force. I'm speaking because I have my colleagues here listening. We had 40% of intelligent hands, that is, goldsmith hands, intelligent hands, and this was going to make us lose talents, people who would not be able to pass on this role to someone else. And so we inverted the role of competitors. We are all decided to run towards the same goal, that of training the generation of the future. So now there are 60 companies involved, 21 are founding members. We all take part in this training project, which interfaces with schools, with the area of Valenza, our district, and which has opened its doors to all the Italian goldsmith areas. We're in constant contact with Vicenza. We communicate with Arezzo, with our colleagues from Taringo. So we try to understand what their needs were and which kind of training project could be attractive, because it's an issue of attractiveness. Young people thought that this job was like someone working with a candle. That's no longer the case. Companies are very much in the forefront, pioneer, and they're very modern. We did open days in schools. We attracted young people. We showed them what we were doing. Then we asked them to make a video of what they had seen in the company. And I must say that it made me cry, because through their eyes, it's an extraordinary work. And we sometimes no longer realize this. And so we are reactivating, because unfortunately COVID stopped us. But we are attracting once again some training experiences, digital labs. So we're trying to get these young people to breathe the same air which we breathed when we were children. So not only pass on technical competences, but to create value, to give importance to these jobs. Yes, I'd like to add another important point, very important point on training, the continuous stimulus to experiment, which is so important, because it's true that know-how and tradition is important and so on. But we must proceed. It's just one extra element. Yes, we worked with the Politecnico. The work is still underway, the Politecnico University, to have an R&D lab for the young people. Because I was saying yesterday that these young people are extraordinary. They're so creative. These new generations are wonderful. They really are so flexible. They're extraordinary. So we have to give them the opportunity to grow, but letting them be themselves. They're gold mines. We must get them to fall in love with this. Yes. I'd like to conclude with a more personal question, if you'll allow me, which is the jewel you are most intimately linked to. Shall we start from you? So I'm laughing because people call me crash test. In other words, if they survive my crash test, they can produce it. So whoever survives, don't worry, but pendants are things I always wear. There's the Cala pendant and bracelet. Cala is our iconic line. My children, my girls, if they see me without, they say, have you lost your necklace? So for me, a necklace is a pendant. I have 4 children. The first 3 are boys, and then lastly, we had a daughter. And this is a heart-shaped diamond my father gave to me as a present. I put it on in hospital after having had my little girl, and I've never taken it off since. I will give a more classical answer, which is, in my case, it's my engagement ring. And so it's a colored gemstone, which means a lot to me. because its value is beyond its worth. It's a stone I've always loved, and it is my partner who designed the ring, but it's what it represents, which is important for me, and the fact that I'll always have it with me. At least I hope so. Okay, now I'm going to ask you, do you have some questions to ask our guests? Go ahead, please use the microphone. Microphone, please, to allow translation. Thank you. Yes, great. Here we have a mic arriving. Thank you. Now, I obviously am not part of the new generations, but I must say that I was a woman who occupied an important position in a company in the 1980s. And in the 1900s, it was more difficult for a woman then than now. But I am so proud to see these passionate entrepreneurs, because this was the same passion I had many years ago. And it was much more difficult than what it is today, because now, frankly speaking, gender differences are less strong. Although this feeling of guilt, being women and being mothers, only women have this and will never be freed from this sense of guilt. But to see you so motivated and so strong in getting your companies to grow is a reason of great pride. Just like it's a great reason of pride to have these intelligent policies. We must get young people to understand that our job is not an old-fashioned job. We must get people to be aware of the memory they have simply because they're born in Italy, because since their birth they've seen things that in any other part of the world no one else sees or has in his heart or her heart. So we have to make this memory take shape and be transformed through their hands. And as Alessia said, we've got to try to turn this into something new, an R&D approach which allows them to show who they are, how they are in favor of the companies they will be part of. I think that this is extremely important. Thank you. Thank you very much. And please wait for the microphone. Another question. Another question at the back. Alessandro Lanteri from Verona. Following a twinning campaign between Verona, Romeo and Juliet, and Danjou, 12,000 inhabitants. I wanted to know if one of the speakers had some experience in speaking to Chinese women. What are jewels all about for Chinese women? Well, certainly a very great tradition, because China has a very great tradition, especially in the field of jade. It depends on who are the Chinese we're speaking of, the new generations or the previous generations, because the new generations, the XY generations, are generations which follow fashion a lot. And so for them, jewelry is just like a dress or the latest handbag. So they need to be reassured. And reassurance on a jewel depends on how much it's sponsored, who is it known by, who is it worn by, how many celebrities have worn that jewel. And they are looking for experience. That is what that jewel gave them as an impression, looking at this on Instagram or in advertising campaign or on super top models. So you must make a clear distinction between, what kind of Chinese women are we talking about, which generation, because there are Chinese women who instead love classical jewels, but that is people from the previous generations. Yes, Yes, same opinion too. They understand the brand. They want the thrusting force of brand. So they have this direct purchase. The impact they have with the images, which is important for them in the choice of a jewel. I can perhaps give you an answer from my field in terms of the materials used. And so certainly the number one material is jadeite, possibly of A grade, because they love it very much. It covers all the color ranges from green to white, even transparent white, and then white, diamonds, absolutely, and red. And so all the materials which use these colors. Ruby is the number one gemstone, and they are also very much prepared when they are willing to buy a high-level product. So possibly from Burma, and which has not been heated. And here I could go on and on and on, but I won't. And after that, rubellite, tourmaline. So we're always within the range of reds and pinks for gemstones. And that is all. Yes, please wait. Another question. Waiting for the mic. Thank you. What advice would you give a young girl like me who, although I am born in the jewelry world, I would like to enter in a more professional way? So what path do you advise I follow? Well, certainly training. You must invest in training. And personally, I would advise you to get experience outside of your company in order to bring to your company a know-how which doesn't exist. Look for a job elsewhere, outside of your company, your family company, in order to add value to what you already have in your company. And then really believe in this, because this is a job you will do only if you really love your job. Otherwise, you're not credible. Do excuse me for being so frank, so very frank and direct, because you're not working in your company, are you? In your own company. Microphone, please. Microphone. I am the daughter of a goldsmith, and I was brought up in the store, but it's not my job. I'm a ballet dancer. But now instead I would like to follow, I am following some gemological courses because I would like to enter the business. But I'd like to know if there's other advice you would like to give me. Yeah, you've got to understand what you truly would like to do, because jewelry is a very wide field, from very simple production to many other things. You've got to understand what you want to do, and then you have your identity, which is different from the one of your company. You've got to understand what you'd like to do. No, I don't know where you are, but in Valencia, our foundation is present, and we can perhaps help you. Thank you. Thank you very much. We have another question over there. Azzurra, you will have to wait a second. Yes, I agree with Isabella and Alessia. If you're already being trained in the gemological field, this is something which I advise you to follow in any case, because that's the basis. Nowadays, you cannot tackle this job without a base of gemological studies. And then take your time. Try to discover which is the part which excites you most. Which nourishes your soul, and try to cultivate this. So don't be in a hurry to discover everything immediately. So take your time and compare your views and listen to your heart. Exactly. I have a similar question, but it's also different. What would you advise to people who are not born in the business, indeed who are far away from the jewelry world, but would like to enter? And above all, how to tackle the fact that apart from being a woman, a girl, you're also younger. And so very often, well, it's difficult to get people to listen to you. There are, what would you call this? This is called entry barriers. I'm a woman, I'm young, I don't come from the jewelry world. How can we be recognized for our worth? I'd like to know your opinion.
Well, just have somebody coming from this industry to support you, to be a mentor, to be a tutor, to introduce you. You should, well, this person should bet on you. Of course, it must be worthwhile. I mean, teaching is not easy, and you have to find somebody who's able to teach you. And you have to be worthwhile teaching. I know it's not nice to say it in these terms, but you really have to give yourself. You have to do whatever you can because you're using up the time of this teacher. That's fundamental. So you need to find a company or somebody who believes in you. And for this to take place, you really have to believe in what you want to do. And I mean, when somebody comes, apply for a job, and they are there only because Vhernier is a fascinating company, but there's nothing underneath, we feel it. And you have to dedicate your time. I mean, between 20 and 30 years of age, you go through a fundamental phase in your life to learn. The training in these years defines your future. So you have to use your driving force. There are many companies who are ready right now to pass on their competences. So there is room. And of course, you need to be passionate. That is, companies must feel your passion because passion is fundamental to learn. And there are possibilities right now. There are many companies who are open to new individuals. It is very important to have a mentor, and it is very important also to follow your inspiration. You might have more than one mentor because there are many different types of manufacturing. There are many different fields, and they're all open right now. It's a good moment. I can try to answer with respect to the gemstones. I mean, much depends on what you actually want to focus on what you like most. Women, in general, have a very strong relation with colors. We're very susceptible to colors, and companies recognize that. They recognize this extra talent in interpreting colors, in understanding colors. And if you like gemstones, and if you want to focus on gemstones, being a woman is actually a positive fact. But if you like the idea of cutting gemstones, and there are exceptionally good women cutters, people don't talk about this, but it is a fact. Isn't that right? Alessia has been a cutter. Yes, it's beautiful to cut gemstones. Well, that's another interesting facet. You can learn a lot in this field. You can grow if you really commit yourself to it. But it is a field that requires a lot of patience. To train a good cutter and to make sure that the cutter is talented, because, of course, it is a mix of talent and technical skills. Well, it takes at least 10 years at the bench. So that's another point to be considered. But if you love what you're doing, and you give yourself, this will certainly be perceived. And when you're very young, you also have a certain margin of error. Exactly. I mean, the learning phase is certainly very long in this field because it is a complex job with many different facets. That's why you need passion, because with passion you can overcome barriers. And you can move more quickly if you have passion. Thank you very much. Thank you for your contribution. I would like to thank once again Futurgem for giving me this opportunity. Thank you very much, Voice, for hosting our meeting today. Thanks a lot to all of you. Thanks to the audience. Thank you, Margherita. Thank you.